Hey Bammers, what's up? Mustiaki here. I'm back with a new video for how to BAM, or short for how to become a mangaka. This show was called Bammy. Finally, it's here. I made a few changes for the show. One of the changes is that you can send up till one chapter for the Bammy show. You can send it to info@howtobam.com. That way I have more overview of what is going on, but make sure, and this is very important, that you put in a piece of context what the pages are about, and at least what the story is about. So you can have a synopsis and also have a piece of context what the pages are about, because I have no idea if I don't have that where the story is about, and I want to, but I just do not have the time to read through the whole manga or read through several chapters that are before that or previous to that. Send in your piece of context with your manga pages to info@howtobam.com. So it's a great way for you to get noticed. It's a great way for getting your art exposed, getting more exposure for your art, and it's a great way to learn, know your strengths and your weaknesses. I will go into them, and it's also a great way for the other viewers to understand what is going on. So you can also learn from that. So I'm set up here in my dining room with my tablet. It's a Wacom tablet. For those of you who want to know that, it's a Cintiq version. It's from 2011. It's a tablet where I draw on screen, and for the art I have this nice glove where I can draw with. This glove is that it makes the surface much more smoother, and I don't leave smudges. There were a lot of entries. There were a lot of submissions you guys did. I received a lot of email, also from the mailbag show. So thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for your awesome questions, and also for your manga pages. And I've got so much that I had to make a selection, and I chose for this one. For this manga, it's called The Red Thunder Prince. It's from the artist Muzi. The main story is about a boy named Tazuya, who one day finds out that what he really is a danger to the world. He's one of the Red Kings, which are considered the mightiest of all kings, but 100 years ago they are all wiped out because of their destruction. But now it's modern times, and Tazuya is the last of his kind, and the current king of country seeks to destroy Tazuya before he becomes a threat to the world. Well, that sounds pretty interesting so far. I like those stories where the whole earth can be destroyed by a single man, like we see in Dragon Balls, and Goku becomes that powerful. But it's also very interesting that this so-called protagonist sounds like he is the antagonist in this story. We go into his third chapter. He's got more chapters ready so far, but this is his third chapter, and it takes place immediately after Tazuya was released from the ice fortress, and he tries to escape and get a sense of where he is. So let's get into to his manga. This is his cover of the third chapter. What I noticed is that if we get into his cover, is that his head looks a little bit flat. So, Muzi, I would suggest you would make a more round face. And it would look like this. His head wouldn't be this far, or it could be, but then his ear is a little bit off. His ear should be like this. Or, what I think you are trying to accomplish is that he's looking a little bit sideways, like this. So, what you'll do then is make his eyes a little bit smaller. would be like this, and then his ear would be proper. You could get his ear a little bit over there, so a little bit like this. You get his hair, and just get the percentages, opacity. Hang on, guys. Oh, then again, I will fast forward things that are taking too long. I'm not doing some hocus pocus things or some mysterious things. I'll just try to show everything I can. But for a lot of times, I have to do some stuff, set things up. So it would be very boring to watch me, and the video would become very long. So in between those takes, when I go into the doing, setting things up stuff, I'll fast forward. So you'll see me doing flash stuff. So that's a heads up. Okay, like this. So we're going to fast forward right now. Okay, now we get the opacity set a little bit off, and then we can look at his face. Now I'll draw in a red line so you know what my lines we're going to look like. If it's going to be a little bit from the side, then his hair that you got here, his lock of hair, it will also curve a little bit there into the depth, into that direction. So you want to have this line over here, his hair over here. You can do this, you still do this, it's okay. I went a little bit off with his nose over there. Erase it. It's not probably too. Let me just correct this really fast. Okay. What you want to do, this lock goes like this. And his hair goes like this. His ear is almost okay. Okay. Would be looking more like this. You understand what I'm saying? So this would be more what you're probably looking for. You could also get his cheekbones a little bit, and his eye could also be more to the end of his face, or more to his nose. Up. More like this. I'm just doing it real quick, so I don't get too much into detail, but you have the idea of what I'm going for. So it would look more like this. So if he looks a little bit more into the depth, and he turns his face instead of having him from the side, then you might want to check the eyes. The eyes should be a little bit smaller because it's going to turn into perspective. And his hair, you have to be careful for. So that's what I would make for, as a suggestion for the cover. There are all these pages, but I don't get into each and every page because his chapter is like 20 pages long, and I don't go into each page because that would take far too long. I'll just go through them really fast, and I'll stop by those things what I think are pretty important to do, because this is it looks like a shonen type of manga. So we really want to get those shonen elements. So I think it's much more interesting to focus on those things. So what is happening here is this Tazuya, he freaks out. Probably he's been from his ice prison. He escaped from his ice prison, right? Just have to look back. Ice fortress. Sorry, he was released. He's freaking out. I don't know for what reason, because Musi didn't put a piece of context for these pages, so I don't know what is happening exactly. But not that important for now. He's freaking out. Those people are looking at him. Oh my God, he's freaking out. Now let's go to the next page. He's bursting. He's bursting through this window, and he's flying up. One of those things which you could do here, Musi, is what is a little bit off here is this window. I suggest this. It's a oval or a circled form window. It could be round, but you want to have the inside in there. So that would be like this, where Windows breaks one, and also the glass, because glass, how thin it may look, it also has one side. You already have these parts, so that's good. But it's not really going into perspective, so it's a little bit off here. What you want to do is first get this window right, and it should be more like this. So you still got the side of this, or you got a bigger window if you want to have it out of frame, go out of frame. Then you should have a bit of bigger window and have the inside of the wall, thickness of the wall also there, and also the window. So you would have pieces of glass more like this. Okay. Now, let's don't get too much into this, because it all looks pretty okay. One thing you want to be careful, watch out for, is the panel, the white space of the panels. These lines, this over here, and this, and this. They look okay, but what you want to do is have the vertical and the horizontal a bit more different from each other. The reason for it is that you don't want to get mixed up with the reading direction, because if you got panels in a different setup, you might get confused what reading direction you want to take. This manga reads left to right, by the way. Also, if you leave your piece of context, also leave the reading direction in there, because sometimes I have to figure out what kind of reading direction is going for it, or you are going for it. And so what I was saying is the panel thickness of the horizontal white space of the panels should be a little bit more thicker than the vertical ones. And it also reads much more comfortable that way. And if you look at most of these manga, I've got this example right here. It's from the Shonen Jump. You don't have to do it exactly like they do it. And every manga is different, so they all use a different thickness for the horizontal and the vertical ones. But as you can see, this is one for Naruto. As you can see, the vertical ones are much thinner than the horizontal ones. And if you look at Bleach, they use very small vertical ones and bigger horizontal ones. The horizontal ones almost, I think they're almost the same. They just have a difference in the vertical ones. So you might wanna do that for just adjusting a little bit to make it a little bit more professional looking. Okay, let's get on to the rest. This all looks okay, but there are some things that could be done a bit better. One of the things you've done greatly is by switching from well, the main character bursting out of the window to his facial expression, just to show that shows that we are still, as a reader, involved with him, involved with the protagonist, and that's one of the things that will help you uh, draw in the reader. That will help you go into much more better into the story. You could have done a little bit more of this angle over here, just a little bit, curve it, because you can see all these speed lines are also a bit curved, so it would be a bit strange to have this straight and all these speed lines a little bit curved, so you could adjust that one just a little bit. I would have this blank. I would have this white, all white, to give a little bit more expression to the whole to the whole panel, actually, to the whole movement and the whole pose that he is in, because you want to express that he's standing on top of this pole, and he's now looking probably he's now looking at an overview, and you already, if you look at the page layout, you already got enough gray tones and blacken things out to balance it for the last panel. So I would have not to have this gradient, but to have a white background, just a solid white. Let's go on to the next page. He's standing here. You see his facial expression very good, because he's standing on his pole in the previous page. Now you can see his expression first, and that's very important, because if you show the overview, what you see in the second panel, it could also be a way, but it's also nice. It's nice to have expression first, because then we want to read to the next panel, right? We want to see what is he looking at. So that's done really great. Yeah, I got nothing to say about this. This is all pretty okay. I do have a comment about the text and the speech bubbles, but I'll go into that just in a second. What you could do here, okay, here I found the interesting part. If I look to the next page, there's a giant woman coming at him, grabbing his hat here. So in the previous page, we have to build that one up. So if that's a giant woman, this hand would be a little bit off. Also, the hand is not, you could have done the hand a lot better. And I know hands are a pickle. Hands can be really difficult to draw. One way I draw hands, and I'll quickly show you, is having circles. I always work with circles for the basics of my drawings. It's a way for me to to understand how the anatomy works and how things are connected. So what you could do, I first draw the right way, and then I'll just size it up so it will be proportionate to the woman who's that large and huge in the next page. So I'll use circles and look at it in a 3D perspective. So I got it curved. You could also use like a ball for the joints. Ball. I meant circle. You use a circle for the joints. You could also do it over here. Then the hand comes. This is also a circle. Then you also got a circle for the other joints. Joints, 4 joints. It's got 4 fingers and 1 thumb. And then, if you look what his mistake here is, I'm sorry, Muzi, but it is a mistake. Unless she's got these really weird hands. But I don't think you're going for that. Is if you look at our finger, it's made out of 3 parts. You got the top, you got the middle, and you got well the bottom part. And between that we got our joints. So we got one joint here, one joint here, one joint here, one joint here. So we got 3 joints and we got 3 parts. So what you want to do, what you did, if you look at this, you have one joint, and the other joint is not really here. It's supposed to be here somewhere, and it could be here, but then the top of the finger should be more like this. So what you want to do is, you got this, you got another joint, and since she's grabbing his head in the next page, you can take a quick look. Look, she's grabbing his head. You want to make more of a claw than just a flat handle. Like she's slapping him. She's not slapping him, she's grabbing him. So what you want to do is curve this one. Oh, it's a little bit off. So curve this one. However, if you want a more accurate approach, you don't draw it from, it's more sideways now. But you can see his head totally from the front. He's looking at you, looking at the readers, right? Now what you want to do is have this hand sideways. If you look at yourself, it's a good way for exercise. You get a mirror. I've got a camera set up so I can look at myself. It's also a way. And if you look at the camera and you try to reconstruct this image. So what you'll do, you look at the camera. You look at this hand that's coming in here, and you see it's a little bit more curved, and the hand is more of the side, and the way you draw it is more like this. So that would be a bit odd, won't it? So you want to have it more turned, and then have the little bit of claw, hooks of the hand in his head. So that's what you're going for. So what you could do is you could get a mirror and try to copy this one. You can make a picture of yourself and try to copy it. And copy is one of those things I use a lot for my drawings. What really helps me to understand how things are drawn or how things are work or connected. So let me just do this over again. So what you want to do is get the pulse. With your joint, you've got one hand, you've got the circle, you've got another joint. This would be his little pinky, or her little pinky, sorry, I think it's a woman. If you look at this hand, the pinky is always a bit smaller, and if you look at the proportions, it's a different from each person to person, but mostly the pinky goes to this line of the ring finger. So you want to have these size also over here. So you got here the joints, and then goes into that one. Also here it's a little bit higher, as you can see. It's going up. The joint is over here. The ring finger is over here. The middle finger is going up. So you want to have this joint over here. And you have to think in layers. You have to think in 3D, and that's the key of getting the symmetric and the anatomy correct for your manga. So you got this finger behind here. Also, this joint is also a little bit higher because it's the ring finger. Ring finger is larger. You got another joint, and you got this one. Same goes. And if you want a real manga expression, you can have it more of a claw. You can have this middle finger sticking out a little bit more. So you can have it bent a little bit more backwards. And going like this, and have it curved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase your hand. Sorry for that, but it's a better way of showing you how it's how it works, how my correction is going to look like. So we're gonna fast forward, guys. Okay, so now you see just a fast explanation of me. We got the hand, but then again, like I said, the hand is much larger because the woman is that huge, right? You can already see that this hand is also not the right proportion. So what we're gonna do is make this hand a lot bigger. This is one of the ways I love digital drawing because you can just correct things like that. I have to say I normally work with Manga Studio, and that's much more effective. However, for corrections like this, it's much easier to use Photoshop. So I'm using Photoshop right now. But if it would be the real deal, I would use Manga Studio. So we make the hand a little bit bigger. And as you can see, the fingers are not aligned right. A bit more like this. You could also curve it a little bit more, get it right. This would be a more like position that's still not correct because the woman is still freaking huge. She's really big, right? The right proportion, if you look at your hand and your face, it's almost covering your whole face, right? Well, that's the case in this position, in this drawing. So this face is almost covering the center. So this would be the right proportion if the woman would be just as big as he would be. Only woman hands are a little bit smaller than man hands, so she's still a little bit bigger. So let's make it a little bit bigger than that, and that's like this. So this would be a much more better approach to do it. Don't forget the speed lines. Just detail. Speed lines are very important. Make sure for that. But also it's a very good way. You could do it like this. If you use speed lines like this, like I used it, for the hands, then you also have to use speed lines for the background to add the effect. If you leave away the speed lines, you would have this dramatic effect like that I think he is going for, that you don't know, oh, what is happening? He's suddenly getting grabbed in his face. And then the dramatic effect is happening, right? Then you can see that by the way he toned this panel. You did a great job at toning this, Muzi. You toned it, and that's giving that dramatic effect. So I would leave away the speed lines because what happens is when you have a dramatic effect, it's like time slows down. It's like there's nothing there than only the thing that we want to show the readers. That everything is gone. Like you got white space behind him, just focusing on the moment, on the action, on the visual, what is happening in the panel. So that's the reason why you leave out the speed lines. Because if you put in the speed lines, there's action going on, there's motion going on. And then you would have to draw the whole thing. You don't necessarily have to, but if you draw speed lines, you for the hands, so getting a motion, you also you could better create speed lines in the background. Just let me show you quickly what you could do. You could draw speed lines over here. Then you wouldn't have to tone his face, you wouldn't have to tone her hands, and you would have speed lines like this behind him. This would create an action impact. You could have it a little bit like this behind him. Okay? So you either use blank space, have the moment dramatic scene, and have it toned without speed lines, or you could use speed lines, and then yeah, you could leave the toning away. That's what I would do. Okay, on to the next page. And this is where the action is going to happen. Like you can see, she's grabbing his hair, or his hat. Then you would have it's like her fingers are in his hair, but then you would have it would have been better if you would have drawn it a bit more differently. But now it's in his hair, and what you get is that it's like these fingers, right? It's hair is like this, and then the fingers come across, and then the hair spreads out. This is happening. It's not that it's still compact. I don't know what I'm doing. So, um, also a point. What you want to do is make the fingers bigger, more like this. You could have the hair like this. You could remove this part. Um, that's all okay. And what you could do, I would leave his hand out because I have no clue why that hand is doing there. What that hand is doing there, because if you look at the previous panel, he's not holding his hand, and you probably want to create the effect that she's so fast, he caught him off guard, and he couldn't react before. And he couldn't react to what she is doing. So I would leave this, and if you would leave this, you can already see that it will be a bit of a difference. And it looks like I'm nitpicking, guys. It looks like I'm just picking on things, but these are the things that makes the little details is what makes a manga. Focus on details. You want to have each panel, each page, each panel uh, as detailed and complete as possible. You want to have it all compact and balanced out right. If you really want to go pro and you really want to get it to the next level, get a different font, get a different font style. It looks a little bit like it's right, but I'll show you what I use. I use Wild Words. You can use Wild Words. You can use Anime Ace, Manga Speak, I believe. Let me just copy this one. Dot dot dot. Silly boy. Okay. Already got Wild Words on. Just make it black. Now replace it in here. Now, one of the other things you have to be very consistent of is the form of the speech bubbles. You can't have one form like this, and then in another speech bubble have it round or oval like this, and in the other one you have it like this. To make it really professional looking, you can better use a round form or another round form, but it has to be consistent. So I use, I'm just using Photoshop right now, so I'm using the ellipse tool, just as an example, but you could also draw it. There's not one way to do it right. And then, let me just show you what you could do. I do speech bubbles, and I do everything digital, but especially the sound effects. Sometimes the speech bubbles, I tend to draw them a lot more these days, but I do most of them traditional and set them up almost automatically. And that's one of those things you can do with Manga Studio. I would have it like this more, or more like this. Have it move to the mouth, because the mouth of the woman is speaking. So we want to have it move the tail of the speech bubble to move it to the mouth as close as possible. You can move to the head at least if it's this area, right? And we put it down here. Okay, And what you want to do is have it centered. That's very important, because if you don't have it centered, it can look off. And also another thing what you could look for is have enough space between or around the text. If you look at the third panel, this panel where he's flying off, and you can see his expression, you can see that there's not much space between the text and the border of the speech bubble, and that can also make it look. Well, you can improve it. You want to have the space. You want to have the ease because the text is the narrative of the story. That's the important part. So you don't want to mess those things up. What you also don't want to mess up is that you don't have enough space for your speech bubbles. So what you have to do is when you draw your storyboard, and that's really the phase before making this, is already visualize where the speech bubbles are going to be. You can have them drawn in the panels already, and then create the drawings around them, or the other way around, but just leave enough space for the speech bubbles. And I know one of these things that I also bump on from time to time is that I have an artwork that looks really great in that panel, and the speech bubble just won't fit unless I cut into the drawing, and there goes a piece of drawing lost. And I know that can be really hard sometimes, because you don't want that. You want, as an artist, you want to show everything. But like I said, the speech bubbles, the text, is the narrative, and that's the important part of your story. You could have just stick figures as characters, and have the story in place, the narrative, and it still should be very exciting. The artwork is there to support the story. So the story is key. The story is almost sacred. It's like the basics. So you don't want to mess the basics up. So you have to balance things out right. Well, let's get back to the speech bubble. What I'm going to do is I'm going to erase your piece of text, and then you'll see what the difference is. Let me get it a little bit bigger. Yeah, like that. Okay. All right. You could make it the stroke around the speech bubble a little bit thicker. I could do that. Sorry, you did a good job on that. That's a good thickness for the speech bubbles, by the way. You want to have the speech bubbles almost the same thickness as your the lines you use for your characters. And also one thing, it's not the outside, but the center. So you get a little bit peak, and that's not round for the stroke. That you don't get those round curves. You don't want that. So this already looks much better. What you also want to do, and that's where we get into the next panel, is that you want to split those speech bubbles. So you have two parts. And two parts. Why? Because there are stops or sentences in these. There's so much power. Stop. And this expression mark. I can't rebound. So you want to have. You could split them up. You could, of course, you could have them in one speech bubble, but to have a much better impact, you could split them up. What you could also do, and I don't know if that's. Let me just quickly peek for a little bit. I know that's in Naruto, it's the case. I don't know if that's in every manga. Yeah, in most cases. When a protagonist shouts, you get a more the speech bubble wouldn't be round. It wouldn't be like a circle. It would be like peaks or like an explosion speech bubbles. But in this case, I don't know if the protagonist is thinking what he's saying, or that he's actually saying it. Because I don't see a tail, and I don't see a real cloud either. And I presume that this one, that this little thing over here, come on, that this thing is a part of the cloud. But you could, what I would do is have much more space, and I would split them up in two pieces and have it more like this. You could play around, you could connect it, these circles, you could have a distance between it. That's a bit for the artist choice. It's a little bit of creative choice to decide. But at least have enough space, white space, around the text. That's very important, because you want the reader to have a comfortable reading, not to have it all smudged in there. So that's one thing. Also here, have it in the middle, have it centered, have the text centered, so this could be a little bit down. Another thing you have to be very careful and have to look at is not overlapping your lines, because that can be really, it can look really sloppy. So like this point of the panel, these little points, you can see a little effect line over here, and you can see here the cloud that should be wrapping around her is sticking, is coming over her, and here also, and here, and here. Remove those, and it could be that because this art looks like it's done traditionally, I don't know for sure. It could also be with a mouse drawn, but if it's traditional and you already made those lines, you can better, you have a type of ink that's called white ink, and you could erase those lines again. So that's my suggestion to do that. Okay, on to the next panel. Let me just get more quickly into these panels, because it's going to be a very long video if I keep it up like this. If you see the hole in the ground, let me first go into the text again. You want to have a stroke around, surrounding these texts, these numbers. It's a way of again getting more space between the text and your artwork. So there's a distance between them, so it can be looked upon separate. If you look at this hole, it's probably been created when he's when you get the impact and the rocks. It's a little bit flat. You got this in height, all surrounding him, but this is all flat, all flat. And what you would have if you make that impact is that the impact comes from him, his body, as the center. So you want to take that as center. And you could, like I'm doing right now, create these little lines as a guideline to help you structure it out. It looks like a perspective that's from directly above him. So you want to have good coverage. You want to make sure of the perspective from, I don't know what I'm talking about. So you want to have this hole, and then create route. You could use this as just guidelines. Again, I'm just using these red pens just to make it more clear. But eventually you have to erase those guidelines, and this would be the real lines. You could first draw them. This would be the rock versions, the rocks, and then you should erase those lines. And what you want to do is again get this 3D perspective in there, and have it from the center within to the outside. Also, what you could also do is look at these the smoke, also from the inside. So also there you could have a 3D perspective coming from in there, pieces of rock, crumbling. So it's all coming from in there instead of that it's this is too much 2D. So you want to have a real perspective in depth that's crumbling down. Have this around him. These lines would create a more like it's coming from the center and it's spreading around him. Okay, you'll get the picture. Okay. Okay, this panel. Again, you could the text you could place it more in center. Also, watch the speech bubbles and the tail. Also very important. It's something you also have to use as a continuity. Is details. Everything is in the details, so make sure you get those things right. The tail, this one is smaller, the other one is longer, the other one is thicker, the other one is wider. You want to make sure that all details are a little bit the same way. They can be a little bit off from time to time, and that could have to be like I used in the previous page, where the bubble is on the other side, and the tail has got to go all around the character, so you could use that as the tail. But when it's close by, you want to have the same kind of tails. This impact, the impact comes from here a little bit. If you took the center, it's from here. So I have all these speech lines all going to that direction instead of instead of getting to all directions. Just have it all move to the same point. It's pretty hard to decide what you're going to go for. You're going to go for an English sound effect, or you're going to go for a Japanese sound effect. That's also really for you to decide. It's also the same as your reading direction. Some artists like to go left to right. Some artists like to go right to left. That's for you to decide, and that all got to do with your demographic. And as for the sound effects, I had an interview with White Manga, and he also uses some scribblish, just some lines. They weren't made of anything. They didn't mean anything. They looked Japanese, but they weren't Japanese. They weren't anything really. And he used that as a sound effect in his very early work. But he now uses, I believe he uses some expression marks. I also use expression marks just to give this effect. And I used the English language for sound effects. The problem for Japanese sound effects is that it really looks cool. It looks great. It looks much more better. It looks awesome, kick-ass for sound effects in Japanese, in kanji form, than it does in English form. That's just the truth, because it's much more expression. However, they do mean something. So if you just write something in there, you just make some, oh, it looks cool, but you have no idea what it says, then it would be meaningless. You would just do some scribblish, and that's nonsense. So the sound effects are there just to as a support for what is actually happening in that panel, what is happening in the motion, what is happening in the story, what is happening. The sound is supporting what is happening in the image. But sometimes it's not very clear what is happening. You can see emotion, but you have no idea what the impact is. And the sound is helping to support what the impact is. So the sound is is used for those things. So in here you can have it's like boom or crash, or it really sounds like like an anime that you can use in the language, and that's what the Japanese sound effects are really good for, because they are using yeah, words or sounds, more sounds that aren't in the English alphabet or aren't used in the English language. It's just sound. So what I do, and this sounds really crazy maybe, but what I do is create my own sound effects by recreating the sound that's supposed to be made. So if it's a crash, like, you know, I recreate the sound out of my mind. I do, and yeah, what is so can you, I would start with a K, with a with a explosion, and then with an R, like maybe a well, in my language we use a G a lot for tanks for some words, but that's not very common to use for the English version. So again, that's got to do with demographic. So if you go, yeah, you go K R S and maybe an H somewhere. So it's like a crash, but then you don't want to put that word in there, crash, because that really, yeah, for me it sounds cheesy, but it helps understanding what is happening. But it doesn't resemble the sound what is actually happening. Because when a person goes into the ground, well, not in actually, not in reality, of course, but in an anime, and the person crashes into the ground, you don't hear crash. You don't hear that word. So I attempt to make my own sound effects for that. But it stays a really difficult and complicated thing. Enough sound effects for me. I'm already made a fool of myself. Let's go to the last panel, and the third and the fourth panel. When you look at the third panel, you can see the protagonist laying down there. He doesn't know what's happening. He's shattered. He's got his body probably broken in several places, almost half to death. And he is looking upon, well, his killer, because you can see in the next panel, she's holding a sword, probably going to stab him. Or doing something because she's counting down. But what you want to do here is, if you want to make it more vivid, if you want to make the experience for the reader more into the story, so that it's more relatable for the reader to get into the skin of the protagonist, you want to have that point of view of the protagonist also. So, and not really the point of view. You don't. It's not like he's laying down there, and you can directly see her from that position. But you want to have that position where she's more into depth, you know, more into the height, more into well, more from ground up, looking upwards. So that's what I would use in the last panel. And what I could do for what you could do for dramatic expression for the third panel is having her shadow falling over him. So let me make a new layer. You could have her shadow, could be like this. Just have it falling over him. That could be a great way. And since she's counting, you could also have this one in here, but I don't know if she's counting out loudly or in her head. But she started off counting 7, 5, 7, 6, 5, saying out loud. So this would be saying her out loud, but we can't see her, so that this would be good. But I would use stroke, and the last one I would show her really saying it. Okay, the next one, let me quickly go to this one. I would not use, I would use a bit more space for this. I would use actually only lines, maybe, just this. And don't go all the way in here, because here it would already hit his body, and you want to leave some more tension to it. This panel is really good. It's really greatly done. It's a total shot. It's really from a far distance. That also, and that's one of those great things about paneling. and deciding your shots is it's all creative, but it has to do with expression, because this middle panel, this second panel, by creating this distance, you already feel the distance between you and the protagonist. You can see the space behind you and him living lying all the way down there, and the action happening down there. So it feels like you're how do you call it? It's a bit overwhelmed, and like you can't help him. You can't reach for it. So that's a really good shot you used. I guess it would be blood. I would use a more organic way of showing this blood, and maybe more splatters. You know, more splatting instead of it's really hooky right now. I would do a change of this. You could also have it a bit more curved. It's also very nice sometimes. Having things drops flowing out. This is also done nicely, that you show the eyes with the typical glare, the gaze of you see the soul is almost leaving the body, and then getting to a wider pupil in the end, and then closing his eyes. So that's really done great. As for the last page, where I'll go into, because it's going to be far too long if I continue this, and I could do this all day long. Make sure you watch these things, the white borders, and also the consistency again, because this one is much smaller now than you did last time. Like I said, you could better have a more space between the horizontal lines than the vertical lines of your panels, between the panels. And the first panel I would do completely dark, because he's having his eyes totally closed. This is okay. It's an okay panel. To the last panel, and then we get to the ending of this show. If you look at this, is something you have to. I don't know what you exactly did with this part, but this really looks messy. I think you made a little bit of a mistake here. I think you wanted to make the line. It looks like this is supposed to be like this, but then it's not. I don't know what's happening. But the wall, this should be left out, gone. And if you look at the ground and the wall, it would be like this. So it's impossible to have that face. It's almost in the wall now. So that's a no-go. His body is a bit off, because you could better have. You could either have his shirt going like this. This would be the middle of his torso. So I'll just draw that line. Then you would have a arm like this, and it's a common mistake with most starting artists. That's also got to do with perspective and thinking in layers and thinking in 3D and all that stuff. That you can. His body now is lying as if the bed is flat, and that would be okay as if the bed was indeed flat, and would look like this. So this would all be gone. Then it would be okay. It would be okay. But now you have the perspective of the room set up. You got it like this. So the bed looks a little bit okay. However, his arm is totally gone. He's lying on his side, and it's all weirdy. So you should have fixed this and get his arm over there, get his body more turned. To wrap this video up, Muzi, and for you Bammers out there, Muzi, for you, make sure you work on your speech bubbles. and work on your text, have those spaces around there, work on your panels and have those spaces around there. Change your font style, that could improve that a lot. And your perspective. And that's it for now, guys. So I hope to make more of these videos, but that's up to you to decide. Because if you like these videos, and you really enjoy Bammy, and you really think that they are useful, then leave your like, hit that like button, and leave your comment down in the comment section. That's a way for me to know that you really like these videos, and maybe I can post more of them or do more of them. That's it for now, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Johnny.